There is an opinion that Russia is one of the main instigators of world wars. In the First World War, Russia stood up for Serbia, which resulted in large-scale bloodshed due to the abundance of allied treaties between the countries. The Second World War began with the partition of Poland between the Soviet Union and Germany, and in this video we will talk about how much Russia is really guilty of the beginning of war conflicts and how it affected their beginning. Let's start with the First World War. Traditionally, Germany is blamed for the First World War because it was Germany which declared war on Russia and France, and after the invasion of Belgium, forced Great Britain to join the Great War. Germany's responsibility in unleashing the First World War was fixed by the Versailles Peace Treaty of 1919, when between the victorious countries on the one hand, except Russia, which withdrew from the war in 1918, and Germany on the other hand, Germany's obligation to the victors were fixed. However, as we remember, hostilities began because of the crisis between Serbia and Austria-Hungary, which became the reason for the war. So on June 28, the assassination of the Crown Prince of Austria-Hungary Franz Ferdinand takes place. It was done by the Serbian nationalist Gavrila Princip. It was this event that became the reason for the beginning of the First World War. So Austria-Hungary, about a month after the murder, issues an ultimatum to Serbia, which consists of 10 points and gives 48 hours for reflection. The points of the ultimatum consisted mainly of demands to stop anti-Austrian propaganda, to start an investigation of extremist organizations opposed to Austria-Hungary, and so on. But the most important point was the point about starting an investigation against the participants of this murder. It was the last point that the Serbian government refused to fully satisfy, although it agreed to all the others. The Serbian government saw this as an encroachment on its independence. In principle, Austria-Hungary considered Serbia their main enemy because of Slavic separatism on their lands, which the Serbs regularly warmed up. On July 28, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia and begins the first sailing of Belgrade. This date is considered the beginning of the First World War. However, it should be understood that at that time it was just a local conflict between the two countries. So what does Germany and Russia have to do with it? At the same time, endless negotiations are underway between the largest European countries regarding the crisis between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. It should be understood that this is not the first crisis between European countries. For example, in 1908 there was the Bosnian crisis due to the annexation of Austria-Hungary. There were two more Moroccan crises and others. Many countries believed that this crisis could be resolved without involving large countries in the conflict. This was the hope of both parties, Germany and Russia. An important party to the negotiations was the United Kingdom, which at that time remained essentially neutral and negotiated with Russia, France and Germany. However, the countries began partial mobilization. Austria announced this on July 25 and Russia on July 27. After Austria declared war on Serbia on July 28, Russia begins general mobilization 2 days later, at which time the opposing countries in the future war exchange notes, but neither side backs down and are not going to compromise. Interestingly, on July 29, Nicholas II even offers William II to refer the Austrian-Hungarian question to the Hague Conference, but Germany refuses such an offer. On July 39, Germany issues the last ultimatum to Russia. Either Russia stops mobilization or Germany declares war on it. Russia refuses the ultimatum, and on August 1st, Germany declares war on Russia. August 3rd, France, and on August 4th, due to the German invasion of Belgium, Great Britain declares war on Germany, and so the First World War begins. So it turns out that if Russia had stopped the mobilization, the war could have been avoided. Why didn't Russia refuse to do it? With the establishment of Serbia's independence, Russia defended the independent state for a number of reasons. Firstly, the Serbs were close to the Russians, because of their Slavic origin and orthodoxy. And secondly, Serbia gave Russia influence in the Balkans, and in combination with the high loyalty of the Serbs, it was a win-win option. Russia was essentially fulfilling its duty by defending the Serbian state. But in fact, when the German ambassador Count Portel again came to St. Petersburg to Sazonov to find out whether the Russian government intended to give a positive response to the note on the termination of mobilization, Sazonov replied in the negative, saying, "I can give you another answer." Then the German ambassador mistakenly gave him two versions of the note as answer to possible solutions of the Russian government, and both with a declaration of war. That means that regardless of Sazonov's decision to continue or stop the mobilization, Germany would have declared war on Russia anyway. As for the First World War itself, sooner or later the conflict would have broken out, having found a precedent for it more successfully. It should be understood that the murder of Franz Ferdinand was only a reason for the outbreak of war, and not its cause. Now let's move on to World War II and talk about Russia's role in this war. The Soviet Union, which took Russia's place on the war stage by the beginning of World War II, actually had no allies and was hostile to literally all European countries. However, despite this, the Soviet government made a sharp turn in policy in August 1939 and signed a non-aggression pact with Germany, despite the fact that until this year, Stalin considered Hitler the most important enemy of Europe and repeatedly opposed the Reich as an ideological enemy of the Soviet Union. The non-aggression pact itself was not something special. Many countries signed such pacts. However, it was notable for the fact that it contained a secret protocol by which Germany and the Soviet Union divided the spheres of influence in Europe. According to the agreement, the Soviet Union got the eastern part of Poland, where Ukrainians and Belarusians lived, the Baltic countries, and Bessarabia, which was part of Romania and Finland. The Second World War began with the German invasion of Poland on September 1st, 1939, and it's Germany that is considered the instigator of the Second World War. However, already on September 17, Soviet troops invaded Poland, and Poland is divided. As it will become known later, this was fixed in a secret protocol. Despite the later entry of the Soviet Union into the war, it was drawn into the world conflict on a par with other countries. And unlike France and Great Britain, the Soviet Union did not wait, but made a military invasion of Poland. The further expansion of the Soviet Union will continue, and the expansion of the lands will take place according to the aforementioned secret protocol. It turned out that the Soviet Union of the 39th year became quite an active participant in European politics, and expanded its lands with the help of wars and ultimatums on a par with Germany. Here, of course, it's worth talking about the prerequisites for signing the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Why did Stalin decide to sign such an agreement at all? After all, he was an ideological opponent of Hitler. In fact, in 1939, the Soviet Union immediately negotiated with many countries, with Great Britain, France, Poland, and Germany. Western countries were wary of the Union and its revolutionary ideology, so they constantly delayed negotiations and did not agree to Soviet demands. Poland categorically refused to cooperate with the Soviet Union in general. Anticipating the approach of a Great War, Stalin needed allies, and the only one with whom the Stalin managed to come to an agreement was Hitler. The Soviet government was aware of the temporality of such an agreement. Hitler's motive was similar. Hitler was already planning a military campaign in Poland, but he was wary of a war on two fronts, because of which Germany in fact lost the First World War. Therefore, Hitler decided to protect himself by signing a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. This allowed him to quietly conduct a campaign in the East and then switch to Western countries. Based on these motives, the important question remains: would Hitler have started a full-scale war in 1939 if he could not come to an agreement with the Soviet Union? Probably he would not have started. However, given the militaristic regime of Nazi Germany, the war could only be postponed, but not completely prevented. Summing up, we can say that it's difficult to call Russia the instigator of the war in the First World War. Russia was fulfilling its duty to Serbia, which led to an armed conflict. But it could not have been otherwise, because as it turned out, Germany would have declared war on Russia anyway. The Second World War seems to be a more ambiguous event. The Soviet Union played an important role at the beginning of the war, but it also turned out to be on the side of the aggressor. At the same time, the ambiguous policies of Western countries have also led to this turn of events. It's worth saying that both wars could not have been completely prevented by the time they began. The countries were already on the verge of war, and it was just a matter of time.